Welcome back to the deep dive.
Always a pleasure to dive in.
We love to take these deep dives into pieces of writing that you folks share with us.
Absolutely. And this one is really something special.
Um, and it comes from an Afghan writer, Hanif Rahiba Rahimi.
I know his work. He's got a real way with words, painting pictures with them.
Absolutely. And the piece that we're looking at today, it's a memory, really. It's a memory of a wedding celebration in Afghanistan. A really vivid memory of this wedding celebration where this renowned local artist, Khumari, also known as Layman, was performing.
Khumari, yeah. A name that carries a lot of weight, a lot of history.
And I'm really excited to kind of unpack this memory, and understand the cultural context that's woven into it. And also really delve into the effect that this encounter with this artist had on the narrator.
I think we're going to find some really interesting layers there, especially with that cultural backdrop. Weddings in Afghanistan, they're not just parties, they're these rich, intricate events steeped in tradition and meaning.
Exactly. And that comes through so strongly in Rahimi's writing. So we're talking about Shir Aga's wedding celebration. And his father, Haji Lal, he seems like he was a man of some influence, someone who could draw guests from all over the city, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you get that sense immediately. This wasn't just a small family gathering. This was a big affair. And the excitement, it was almost tangible. Everyone was buzzing, particularly about the music. There was going to be Billiton, and of course, the real draw, the legendary Khumari, was going to be there.
And our narrator, it's his first time experiencing an event of this scale, this grandeur.
A young man, wide-eyed, taking it all in. And he's there with his uncle, which adds another layer to the story, right? You have that familial connection guiding him through it all.
I think that's a great place to start, actually. Before we even get to the music, the piece really emphasizes the customs, the traditions leading up to the music starting. There's this real sense of community, a shared experience, right?
Right, and that begins with the food. It's not just fuel, it's this act of coming together, of sharing before the real festivities begin. A beautiful detail, I think, that speaks volumes about the culture.
And then there's this build-up, this anticipation. But it's fascinating how Rahimi distinguishes between the excitement for Billiton and for Khumari.
Yeah, you've got Billiton, a familiar voice. People know his music from the radio. It's comforting, it's celebratory, it's part of the everyday soundscape. But then you have Khumari.
It's almost like a different kind of fame, right? It's more than recognition, it's intrigue. It's almost a sense of awe surrounding her, especially because many, like the narrator, have only heard stories about her dancing.
A legend passed down through word of mouth. And the narrator, like so many others, is about to witness it firsthand. I can only imagine the anticipation, the questions swirling in his mind.
But before Khumari even makes her appearance, there are these pre-wedding rituals that Rahimi details. Henna being applied to the groom's hands, a respected figure, Mal Sahib wrapping a cloth, a langi, around him.
Rituals laden with symbolism, right? Blessings for prosperity, for happiness, for a strong union. You can almost feel the weight of tradition in these acts.
And then sweets and coins showered upon the groom, and he's even referred to as Shah, meaning king.
Elevated for this special day. The community, in a sense, is bestowing this title upon him, recognizing this pivotal moment in his life. And then you have close friends and family adorning him with flower garlands. Beautiful imagery, isn't it?
And then there's this detail that really struck me. After these blessings, some guests, including Mal Sahib, actually depart. It's like there were different layers of attendees, those who came for the traditional blessings and those who were really there for the music and the performance, specifically for Khumari.
It's almost as if the celebration shifts gears at this point. A subtle change in the energy of the event as we move from the formality of the rituals to the excitement of the artistic performance. And I love how Rahimi captures this transition so delicately. It's never explicitly stated, but you feel it in the rhythm of his prose.
Absolutely. It's almost like the departure of these figures signals the start of the main event. And right on cue, Billiton and his ensemble arrive and begin to set up. A rabab player, an harmonium player, a drummer, and Billiton himself, with his long-necked timbre, they all take their places.
It's fascinating how specific he is about the instrumentation. It gives you such a clear picture of what this type of musical performance entails. The rabab with its haunting melodies, the harmonium providing that rich, full sound, the rhythmic heartbeat of the drum, and of course the timbre, Billiton's instrument of choice, each one playing a vital role in creating the sonic landscape of the evening.
And what really stood out to me, and I think it's where the anticipation starts to really build, is the way Rahimi describes the tuning process.
Oh, yes. It's meticulous, it's deliberate, it's almost like a sacred ritual in itself, preparing these instruments to sing their songs. And he compares their precision to a radio recording. I found that detail particularly interesting.
I did too. And the narrator, he's impatient, right? He, along with all the other young attendees, are eager to see Khumari. But this tuning, it's like it heightens that anticipation even further.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that great artistry takes time, that precision is key, and in a way, it makes the eventual performance all the more impactful. We're primed to be swept away. And then finally, the music starts. Salami, a classic melody, a greeting. How fitting for a wedding celebration.
Such a beautiful way to open the performance. And then Khumari enters. Accompanied by two well-dressed young men, she just sweeps into the space. Rahimi mentions her hair flowing over her shoulders and this immediate energetic movement that just electrifies the crowd.
She commands attention from the moment she arrives. She's not just walking in, she's making an entrance, a star in every sense of the word. And you can feel the audience reacting, buzzing with excitement. It's more than just seeing her, it's feeling her presence, this aura of anticipation that's been building all evening.
It's captivating. And then she starts to dance. Her movements described as graceful, synchronized perfectly with the drum beats. It's continuous, it's energetic, and it's utterly mesmerizing.
The narrator is spellbound, as is everyone else. And it's not just the movement, it's her beauty. Rahimi takes the time to really paint a picture of Khumari.
He does. He describes her dark eyes, her delicate nose, her fair complexion, that long, dark hair, and that incredibly graceful figure. He even goes as far as to say that her dancing was intoxicating, almost magical, every movement enchanting the audience.
A true artist, someone who can transport you with their art. And it's interesting how the narrator mentions that he had a particularly good view because of his uncle's reputation.
Yeah. It's a subtle reminder of the social dynamics at play. Connections matter. And in this case, it affords the narrator a privileged position, a front row seat to this incredible performance. And then something really interesting happens.
What's that?
Khumari, she actually sits down for a brief moment right in front of the narrator and his uncle, and her black shawl covers them both. It's this fleeting moment of intimacy.
A stolen moment, almost. Removed from the spectacle of the performance, a sudden closeness. And what impact did this have on the narrator?
Oh, it clearly affected him deeply. He mentions how she smiled at him, and he saw beads of sweat on her forehead.
The exertion of the dance, a reminder of the physicality of her art.
Right. But what's really fascinating is that even the scent of her sweat was pleasant.
A sensory detail that speaks to how deeply this moment imprinted itself on his memory. It's not just the visual, it's the smell, the heat, the physical proximity of her presence. And he remembers that intense eye contact, the way she looked at him.
It's a small moment, but it's pivotal in the story. And then she's back up dancing again. But the narrator starts to see something else in her performance now.
What is that?
He talks about this sense of responsibility she seemed to carry. Interspersed with those incredible movements, she's tending to her ankle bells, she's accepting a cigarette from one of her male companions. It's like these small gestures reveal a different side of Khumari, a glimpse behind the performance.
A woman at work, tending to the tools of her trade, and also navigating the complex social dynamics of her profession, particularly as a female performer in that time and place. It's a fascinating layer to the story, isn't it?
It is. And the narrator's emotions, they start to shift. He was captivated by her dance, but now he's worried. He's concerned for her well-being as she just spins tirelessly.
A natural response, I think, especially given that fleeting moment of connection he felt with her earlier. He's no longer just an observer, he's invested in her well-being.
Exactly. And then there's this other emotion that surfaces, a resentment towards the other men in the audience, the way they're looking at Khumari. He even admits to wishing for a moment that she was dancing only for him.
A touch of possessiveness there, perhaps. A young man grappling with intense emotions, feelings he may not fully understand himself. And of course, fueling this emotional turmoil is the fact that he's also at an age where those first stirrings of romantic attraction are emerging. It's a potent mix. But then there's this realization he has. He acknowledges that dancing is Khumari's profession. It's her livelihood.
Right. And it's like this understanding, this acceptance helps him move through those more possessive feelings.
A moment of maturity, perhaps, in his emotional journey. A recognition of Khumari as a person with her own life, her own motivations, outside of this idealized image he's constructed in his mind.
And the night goes on. with Khumari dancing tirelessly right until the very end, Billatoon and his band playing with this infectious energy. It's like this culmination of everything that's been building throughout the piece.
A celebration in its truest form. Music, dance, community coming together. It all coalesces into this unforgettable experience.
And for the narrator, it truly is unforgettable.
Mhm.
The next day, he can't shake the image of Kumari's face, her smile, her eyes, her lips. But Khumari, she's already gone, left for Kabul with Billatoon.
The fleeting nature of performance, here one night, gone the next, and the narrator is left with only his memories. But those memories, they have real weight, real power. They stay with him, don't they?
They do. He talks about how the memory of her smile, her gaze, even the scent of her sweat stayed with him for years. And he mentions this yearning to see her again, a longing that intensified during a particularly sensitive period in his life, a time when he was experiencing those first pangs of love and heartbreak.
It's as if Khumari becomes this symbol, this embodiment of a kind of pure, unadulterated beauty and joy that he yearns for, especially during a time when his own emotions are so raw and turbulent. It makes perfect sense. The human mind often latches onto powerful memories during times of emotional upheaval. They become anchors, points of reference, even sources of solace or longing.
And years later, that longing drives him to Kabul. He travels there with his uncle, driven by this desire to see Khumari again.
And his uncle, what was his reaction to this?
He doesn't outright approve. It's subtle, but you can sense his disapproval, this unspoken concern about his nephew's intense interest in Khumari.
It makes you wonder about the social dynamics at play. Perhaps in their cultural context, the connection between a young man from a respected family and a performing artist was frowned upon. There might have been societal hierarchies or perceptions about Khumari's profession that fueled this disapproval. It's a reminder that even the most personal desires are often shaped and influenced by larger social forces.
It is. But despite his reservations, the uncle eventually helped the narrator find Khumari's address. And they go to her home, which is described as being quite modest in a less affluent part of Kabul.
A stark contrast to the grandeur of that wedding celebration. It sets the stage for a very different kind of encounter.
And the narrator, he's incredibly nervous as he arrives. He's excited, but also there's this internal conflict he's wrestling with, this awareness of his social standing versus this fascination, this almost obsession with Khumari. And when they knock on the door, it's not Khumari who answers. It's a middle-aged woman who's clearly unwell.
Immediately you know something isn't right. The anticipation, the hope, it starts to crumble, and I imagine the narrator's heart sinking as he realizes this isn't the reunion he envisioned.
Absolutely. And the conversation that follows is incredibly difficult. The woman is Khumari's mother, and she's angry at the mention of her daughter's name. She tells the narrator that Khumari doesn't sing anymore.
A cryptic statement that deepens the mystery. What happened to Khumari? Why doesn't she sing anymore? Rahimi is a master at building tension, at keeping us on the edge of our seats, eager to learn the truth.
He is, and then the mother breaks down, starts to cry, and the narrator, he's completely overwhelmed by her grief.
A pivotal moment in the story. The facade crumbles, and we're about to learn the truth about Khumari's fate. It's a heartbreaking moment, isn't it?
It is. The mother, she shares her story. Khumari was her only daughter, and her husband, a government official, died in the war.
A devastating loss that clearly had a profound impact on their family, both emotionally and financially.
It did. And it's this context that sheds light on why Khumari was singing and dancing. It wasn't just a passion. It was a means of survival for her family.
She stepped up, used her talent to support her loved ones, a remarkable young woman carrying such a heavy burden.
And she was good. She was really good. Her mother explains that Khumari had been singing at women's gatherings since she was a little girl, and over time she became quite famous. Her recordings were circulating widely.
A testament to her talent and her hard work, a local star rising above her circumstances.
And then comes the revelation that just shatters everything. The mother explains that Khumari had been taken to perform at a wedding, and then she just disappeared. A week later, her body was found in a well.
A horrifying discovery. A young life cut tragically short.
And the mother's grief, it's palpable. It's almost unbearable. And the narrator, he's completely shaken, devastated by this news. He reflects on everything he's learned about Khumari's life, her sacrifices, and it's just too much to bear.
He sees those lingering visions of her smile, her beauty, and then juxtaposed with this image of her violent, senseless death.
He's filled with anger. He condemns the cruelty that was inflicted upon her, lamenting the loss of her youth, her talent, her beauty. It's like this moment encapsulates the senselessness of violence, the way it can extinguish the brightest lights.
And he understands now, perhaps, why Khumari danced with such intensity, why she smoked. Maybe a way of coping, of finding solace in those fleeting moments.
It's like this whole new layer of understanding is added to his memories of her.
And his uncle, silent on their journey back to Kabul, offering a compassionate space for the narrator to process this grief, this complex mix of emotions.
And it's those emotions, those recurring memories of Kumari's beauty, the tragedy of her story, they become too much for him. He decides to leave Kabul.
An understandable response. He needs space, time to heal, to make sense of it all, but the story takes a fascinating turn, doesn't it?
It does. Years later, the narrator returns to Kabul, settles there for work, and then one evening, a few years after his return, he finds himself at a colleague's wedding, held at a hotel in Kabul.
And it's here that the story takes its most unexpected turn. I love how Rahimi plays with our expectations, how he keeps us guessing until the very end.
It's masterfully done. So at this wedding, the narrator sees one of the singers, and she looks familiar. He describes her as resembling an older Khumari, a little heavier, dressed more formally. He can't believe his eyes. He tries to share his story with a guest nearby, and this guest reveals that the singer is, in fact, Khumari. She's alive.
Wait, so the entire time Khumari wasn't dead? That's an incredible twist.
It is. The narrator is floored. He realizes it's truly her, Khumari, but changed by time, by circumstance, and he's overcome with gratitude that she's alive.
What an emotional roller coaster. From grief to disbelief to this overwhelming relief, it makes you want to go back and reread the entire story with this new knowledge.
And the story concludes with the narrator realizing that his uncle had staged that entire encounter with Khumari's mother. It was an elaborate deception, a fabrication to protect his nephew from further heartbreak, to discourage this intense infatuation that he feared might lead to more pain.
It's a lot to unpack. A protective act born out of love and concern, but it also raises questions about the boundaries of deception, the lengths we'll go to for those we care about, even if it means distorting the truth. But what are your initial thoughts? What struck you most about this story?
I think it's layers, really. On the surface, you have this vivid, almost cinematic depiction of a wedding celebration in Afghanistan. It's so rich in cultural detail, in sensory experience. You feel like you're right there with the narrator, taking in the sights, the sounds, the emotions of it all. But beneath that surface, there's this exploration of the power of art, the impact it can have on our lives, the way it can shape our memories, our desires, even our identities. And woven through it all are these complex social dynamics. The role of family, the expectations placed on young men and women, the power of tradition, and the delicate dance between personal freedom and societal constraints. It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
It really is. And for our listeners, as you reflect on this deep dive, consider this. What does this story tell us about the lengths people will go to protect those they love, even through deception? And how do personal aspirations and societal pressures intersect and sometimes collide? Think about the complexities of cultural change and the enduring power of memory in shaping our understanding of the world around us.
So much to ponder. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. And to our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Until next time.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.